I was just at a stage where I just thought, you know what, I've had enough of life. I already felt like I'd been through so much in my life. I'd experienced so much, you know, had more than enough happen to me and done more than enough to others and things like that. So I just thought to myself, you know what, it's now or never. Either I'm going to commit suicide now at this age and just finish it all, or one way or another, I'm going to be guided to something else.
Assalamu alaikum, people. Welcome back to another episode of Streets to Deen. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, share, subscribe, all of that. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How's it going, my bro? You right, yeah?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, can't complain, bro. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
My name's Abdul Malik. I'm 23 years old, revert for 10 years. And Alhamdulillah, still here.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And what's your ethnicity?
So I'm originally born in South Africa,
Yeah.
and I moved to England when I was probably about 5-6 years old.
MashaAllah, okay. Well, you go back and forth or?
Not really, man. Not anymore.
Yeah.
But Alhamdulillah, but I want to be back and forth to Saudi, not South Africa.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
So give us a bit about your background, man, like childhood, growing up, or like what was that like? Do you remember a bit of South Africa or?
Yeah, man. South Africa was nice, man. The weather definitely different to like today when it's all raining. Don't get that much there. But Alhamdulillah, it was nice, man. It was really nice. You know, you got a lot of the houses and stuff. You know, they're nice and big, spacious. Weather's nice, warm. You know, it's
Which part of?
So I was in Pretoria, so I was not too far from the beach, not too far. But yeah, Alhamdulillah, it was nice. You know, but it's very secluded because obviously it's quite dangerous around there, innit? So you know, you stay in your house. You know, every house has got these big gates and stuff. And you know, but Alhamdulillah, you know, it's nicer than, I would say it's nicer growing up there than here. You know, especially like things you eat. You know, fruits and stuff like that, natural. Everything's natural, innit? You know, it was quite good, Alhamdulillah. But you know, I don't remember too much in it because my childhood was pretty much my yard, innit?
Yeah,
pretty much home.
Okay,
that was it. You know, you go to school, you come home. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Alhamdulillah, it was nice to like, you know, we had a lot more to do at home there than you do here, innit? You know, like there you got a big garden that's like half the size of a football pitch. So you know, go free and we used to grow like vegetables and stuff, and it was nice then. You know, you learn a lot in it. You learn a lot. But Alhamdulillah.
Oh, so you said you left when you were 6?
Yeah, so I left when I was about 5-6 years old.
Okay.
I remember that. Like, I remember it was a bit mad because we got on the airplane. My mum and my dad are telling me, yeah, we're gonna go on holiday. We're gonna see what England's like, innit? We got to England. I'm wearing shorts, a vest, and sliders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No socks, just sliders, innit? I remember that, and I got off the plane. I'm shivering. I'm saying to my mum, "What's going on with this country?" I didn't know there was no cold. I didn't know there was a cold country in the world, innit? I didn't know nothing about that. I didn't know there was another country, innit? So I got off the plane, and my mum's saying to me, "Right, well, this is home now, innit?" I'm like, "What?" And I just cried, bro. I cried all the way from the getting off the airplane all the way to our house, man. I cried.
Oh, she only told you when you got here.
Yeah. Because they knew what was gonna happen. Because I like the warmth, innit? I love that, innit? And then they told us once we landed, they were like, "Right, this is home now."
Yeah.
And I was in. I was thinking that makes sense. That's why we sold everything back home. But I thought, you know, selling things for money, innit? But nah, we sold everything, man. Alhamdulillah.
What was the reason for the move in it?
To be honest, it was one. My dad got a job here, but the reason why he got a job here is because it was quite dangerous in South Africa. Okay. So like obviously, you know, you back in the day, you had that, you know, the apartheid, you had the racial problems and stuff like that. Yeah. So then when I was growing up, that sort of got flipped on his head. Yeah. So then the white people basically became, you know, like the lower class, and then the black people became higher class, and it changed quite a bit. And then, you know, there was a lot of like racial violence in it. Yeah. So then I remember our house got broken into, and my parents basically just said, you know, this is it now, and it like, because there, you know, breaking into a house here, everyone's doorstep is on the pathway anyway, so it's not that, you know, not that difficult. Whereas there, you got gates, you got multiple gates to get through. You know, there's a lot of security in place before you can actually enter into someone's property. Yeah. So for that to actually happen to us, and it was just me, my sister, and my mum at home that night. Yeah. So yeah, it was like the first night my mum actually had to pick up a gun, you know, and that's for a woman, you know, that's not
it's a big thing.
Yeah, that's scary, you know, and especially my mum's very a very soft-hearted woman, innit? So that was just like, nah, it's too much, you know, it's not safe here. So my parents thought, you know, rather come to England, give me and my sister a bit of a better upbringing, a bit safer as well. So alhamdulillah, yeah.
That's interesting, man, because obviously I'm from Zimbabwe, so we're basically neighbours. But you know, like what you were telling me about how everything got flipped on its head. Obviously, you're coming from the white perspective, but obviously, I only know it from the black perspective. Do you get me? So it's always interesting to like sort of see the other side and that. But Alhamdulillah, Islam brought us together, man. Do you get me? But okay, cool. So you came here when you were 6. Whereabouts did you move in England?
So we came originally to Burnham, which is next to Slough in Berkshire.
Okay.
So alhamdulillah, we moved there, and that was a big shock to the system. Big shock to the system, because they're, you know, you come from South Africa, so like a lot of, like, for example, if we've got Asian viewers, like Pakistan, the houses, a majority of them are huge. You know what I mean? So I come from like that. To put it in perspective, I come from one of those like sort of mansion type houses to this house where my room, you could literally sneeze and you touch the other side of the wall all of a sudden. Like, you know, your room was tiny, innit? So it was a shock to the system to move there. And when I moved there, we moved into a little village. You know, Burnham's just a little village. So where you can walk to the high street, you can walk to the other side. It'll take you like 20 minutes to half an hour to walk from one end to the other end. Whereas coming from South Africa, where, you know, you weren't even allowed to leave your front yard. It was a big shock to the system, innit? But you know what? One thing, that just comes to my mind every time someone asks me this is the difference between, like, I watched how kids were towards their parents in England as opposed to South Africa. And I could see you shaking your head like, you know, innit? Discipline there was different, innit? Like, I remember moving in and I'm hearing kids swearing at their parents and, you know, speaking to them in a mad way, innit? And I'm looking at my mum and like, why is their parents not beating them? Like, where's the belt? Where's the wooden spoon? Where's the slippers? Like, and my mum's like, no, you can't do that in this country. And I'm like, but look at what's going on. Like, you know, if I spoke to my parents like that, boy, I wouldn't be able to sit for 2 weeks, innit? Whereas, like, I'm seeing that, and that was probably like the biggest shock to the system. Like, going primary school, and, you know, kids are saying some crazy things, and
even I'm looking at the teachers.
I'm looking at the teachers like, where's the stick? Like, you know, when are you gonna start lamping them? Like, what's going on? And then, you know, I'm saying this to the teachers, and teachers like, what's going on at home? You know, they're a bit like, what's going on? And I'm like, it's discipline, innit? You know, like, you got to be disciplined one way or another, innit? So that was probably the biggest, like, cultural shock that I actually experienced as a young kid.
Real talk. And, like, obviously we'll touch up on it later, but definitely, because I can relate to that, because I came here when I was 9, and in Zimbabwe, in Africa in general, like, discipline is a must. Like, you respect your elders, otherwise you're getting a belt or whatever. When I came here, that's partly what turns you bad, isn't it? Because you realise, like, there is no boundaries.
Social services, isn't it?
You're like, yeah, mum, you can't touch me. What? Do you get me? But yeah, subhanAllah. But okay, so you was there for a bit. How long did you stay there for, and when did you move to Wickham and stuff like that?
So I was there probably about 4 or 5 years or so, off the top of my head. I was there probably from like year 1 to year 5, basically the end of year 5.
Okay.
So yeah, I was there for that period of time, but to be honest, nothing major really happened. Like, you know, there's a little village and it's predominantly white people in that village as well. Okay, so, you know, it's just normal, you know your neighbours, you know the people who live down the road, you know, everyone knows everyone sort of thing, innit? And then I moved to Wickham when I just started year 6. And that was a massive shock to the system, huge shock to the system. Because there, I went from an all-white area where, like, there was, like, 2 Indian kids in my school. Yeah. And even then, like, their parents were more white than most of our parents, innit? So it was normal, innit? Yeah. But then coming to Wickham, like, I moved onto a road and there's just Asians everywhere. You know, it's quite like diverse. You got black people, you got Asian people, you got white people, you know, you got Arabs, you know, you got all sorts of people. And that was a shock to the system. Like, that was like, whoa, like, not a negative, but I just never seen these people. And then, you know, people are saying people are giving salam, and I'm hearing this mad language, and I'm like, bro, what's going on here? Like, and, you know, people are saying, you know, we're going to the mosque, and I'm like, bro, what's a mosque? And then I'll see, like, every Friday, like, there would be just bag of people going to this one building. I used to be like, what's going on here? Like, I thought it was a bit mad. Like, I'm thinking, this is, like, to me, it was weird, innit? Because I'd never even met a Muslim. I didn't know what Islam was. Yeah. So then to go from not knowing Islam at all to being dropped in the center of all these Muslims, I had no idea. Like, I was thinking, like, bro, why are most of these shops, like, there's all these funny Arabic writing, and everything's turkey, nothing's pork, like, everything's turkey. Yeah. I'm like, bro, who eats turkey? You know, coming from that, I was like, who eats turkey? And yeah, like, that was a bit of a shock, because year 6, obviously, I went to primary school. I went from a primary school where there was 2 Indian kids out of, like, 400 kids to, like, 5 white kids out of, like, you know what I mean? It was roughly like that, innit? Yeah. So yeah, that was quite a bit. It's quite a bit of a shock, to say the least, innit?
Yeah, that's fine. So I mean, talk us through some of the stuff you used to get up to then, like, so growing up in Wickham, and you know what I'm saying, like, getting introduced to different cultures, shall we say, and different people, like, stuff like that.
To be honest, like, I was always, like, I come from a family of, you know, mainly well-behaved kids and that, and I was like the black sheep in it. So I always hang around with older people because they were more mature and they were more into what I was into. Like, you know, when little kids were watching like Teletubbies and all this, I was watching like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and WWE. And, you know, people even nowadays be like, oh, do you remember this cartoon? I'm like, nah, I remember WWE. I remember Hulk Hogan. I remember, you know, these, man, but I don't know anything about that. So I naturally gravitated towards elder people. And, you know, obviously where I was living in Wickham, you had sort of like two types of people. You had the people who studied hard, went in at 6 o'clock when their mum called them. And you had the other people who would be out until early hours of the morning doing whatever, innit? So I started off hanging around with more, you know, the good children, and, you know, they were Muslims and things like this, but not many people were properly practicing back then, innit? You know, Islam wasn't a huge factor in all of their lives. It was more education that was a factor in these particular brothers' lives.
Okay.
And so I started hanging around with them, and then once I hit year 7, that's when I started to actually see that there's a lot more to the world than just, you know, being on your road playing Kirby, you know, banging ball, one touch on bounce, you know, these sort of games and that. So then when I hit year 7, I was like, raw, you know, people are doing some crazy stuff, and I was intrigued in it. I was like, raw, you know, you see people making money at young age, and you see people wearing these clothes, and do you remember them small Just Do It night bags? I remember everyone rocking them, and I was like, what's fashion? Like, I didn't know about fashion, and everyone's rocking that. You know, you remember them Nike leather gloves? I didn't know why people were wearing them, but I found out soon enough, innit? But yeah, like, so to be honest, getting up, like, it was a bit of a mixture, because when I would chill with the brothers and stuff that were on my road, everyone would be good, you know, just playing football and stuff like that. But then when I'd venture out a little bit, you know, it was a bit different. You know, people were smoking, drinking, you know, they were linking girls, things like this, innit? So from a young age, innit? So that was very much put into my mind from very, very young that, you know, these things are normal. You know, people who don't do these things, they're weird, innit? They're strange, they're nerds or whatever, innit? Or do you remember that word, neek?
Neek,
everyone was a neek, innit? Everyone was a neek.
So, it sounds like a typical, like, basically, you know, upbringing in England, like growing up in England kind of thing, But what really caught my attention, because you said you're 23, but you've been Muslim for 10 years. So you became Muslim like when you was 13. So before you become Muslim, talk us through that process of you finding Islam and going through the madness that you're just explaining now. Like, talk us through that.
To be honest, at that period of my life, like, so I was a lot more aware of the world than a lot of children my age, you know. So all these sort of things had a massive part to play. So when I was leading up to my journey to Islam, so when I started year 7, I had already been through quite a few things that a lot of children hadn't experienced at that point. And my parents got divorced when I was about year 5 or year 6. So I lived with my mum, and, you know, like, generally mums are a lot softer than dads and stuff. So I got away with a lot more, and, you know, I pushed the boundaries more and more every single day. So so I started getting up to a lot of things that, you know, generally young kids don't get up to, you know, hang around with people, you know, started smoking at that age, started, you know, smoking weed and things like this, you know, and just general, just, you know, just little bad things, like, not like going out doing crazy stuff, you know, robbing people, robbing banks and stuff, nothing like that, but more lower level, but, you know, it progresses, isn't it?
Yeah, of course,
And I think at that period of my life, when I hit year 7, that's sort of when I just ran riot. I thought, you know, let me do everything, you know, just getting in fights, and, you know, things like respect and these sort of things became quite a big part of, you know, fear and respect and reputation. These things became quite a big part of pretty much all of our lives at that point, innit? So at that point, I was trying to just get deeper and deeper involved in that sort of lifestyle. And it wasn't a case of, you know, it was my surroundings, you know, or, you know, they say you're product of society or you're product of your environment. Because Wickham, it's not a ghetto, innit? You know, it's not like South London or something like that, where it's just normal.
Some could argue, innit? But, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, at least, Alhamdulilah, in Wickham, you sort of have a choice of which route you go down.
You're right,
You do have somewhat of a choice. And I had that choice, and I was very conscious of that. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go down that road, and I want to do whatever I can, excel down that road, you know, become the biggest whatever in the ends or whatever. So I had that in my mindset from quite young. And so yeah, you know, I mixed around with a lot of brothers from different areas of Wickham. You know, Wickham's obviously, I'm sure you know, Wickham's split up in different areas like Castfield, Mickerfields, you know, Totteridge, Downley, Hazelmere, blah blah blah. So I started mixing with all different people from different areas, and, you know, just depending on who was on what, basically, you know.
Yeah.
And at this particular time, I spent a lot of time in Mickfield, and Mickfield is quite known to be not the, you know, nicest of areas in Wickham, innit? And yeah, so I just started hanging around there, and, you know, people starting to introduce you into, you know, things like drug dealing and, you know, growing certain things to sell on the streets and these sort of things, innit? So I was quite not quite involved, but I was quite intrigued, and I wanted to get more and more involved. But then, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on at home, you know, dealing with my parents' divorce and, you know, dealing with own personal issues as well. And, you know, even things like girls and stuff, I got involved with things like that from young. So because of that...
How old are you these times now?
I was about 11, 12 years old.
12.
Yeah.
So you was early.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man, I became aware quite early of it. So, like, you know, going through, like, your heartbreak over losing your girlfriend and stuff like this, like, even though, you know, you look back on it now and you think, oh, it was minor, it was a kid. But when you're that kid in that stage of your life, it's not that minor, innit? You feel it, innit?
To you. Yeah,
exactly, innit? So, yeah, I was going through a lot of things at once, innit? And, you know, you think to yourself, you've fallen in love. And, you know, on top of that, you know, you got things out on the road that you're dealing with. And, you know, you're progressing through the ranks, as they say, innit? So to speak. So, yeah, like, I reached a stage in my life when I was about 12 and I was just depressed, and, you know, things like self-harm and stuff like that. I'd already started doing that from younger age, much younger age. I think, like, I remember I was probably about 8, 9 years old the first time I, you know, had that thought in my mind of, you know, self-harm.
So, yeah, just to touch up on that, like, what brings that about kind of thing? I'm really curious because I've never understood that type of thing, but, yeah, what would you say, what was the feelings going through you? What actually led to that type of thing?
I think the thought was planted when I lived in Burnham. So when I lived in Burnham, there was a lot of mixture of different types of white boys, but there was a lot of like emos and, you know, them sort of people in it. Yeah. So like when you get to know them and stuff, and they sort of help you to come to an understanding that if you inflict pain upon yourself, somehow that's going to help you. Somehow that's going to relieve your emotional pain. Okay. So the physical pain is going to relieve the emotional pain. Okay. Which now, obviously, looking back at, you think, how does that even make sense? Yeah. But I guess, you know, Shaytan will attack in any way, innit? So it will make sense to you eventually or somehow. So, yeah, so like I had that in my mind, and, you know, you'd listen to this emo music and stuff, and, you know, you'd be surrounded by these people. And one day I just thought to myself, you know, well, let me give it a go. Yeah. Why not? You know, I'm intrigued. And I thought, you know, I'm in that emotional state that they all talk about. You know, the criteria matches up to how I'm feeling. So surely the action will have the effect that they say it does. So then, yeah, I started self-harming and stuff. And to be honest, obviously, for anyone who's actually listening and even considering that stuff, I'll be honest, like, bro, you could clearly see, like, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not a joke, and it is real. And, like, bro, some of this stuff is from, what, you're talking like 15, 16 years ago. And, you know, even now, you know, I've got my kids ask me, you know, what's that on your arm and stuff, and you can't explain that to them, innit? But for people who are actually thinking of it, like, even just on a side note, bro, you know, everyone says it's not worth it. Don't have to go through with it to actually understand that it's really not. Yeah. You know, it doesn't achieve anything. Yeah. The physical pain does not relieve the emotional pain. It's a distraction. Okay. You know, it's like the same reason people do drugs and drink. Yeah. It's just a distraction for a short period of time. Yeah. And then, you know, you're left feeling ashamed. You know, same like when you're drunk and you do something, you make a mistake. Once you're actually sober and people tell you, oh, bro, you did this, like, then you're left feeling ashamed. You feel like an even bigger idiot than when you started off, innit? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like a vicious cycle. But so, yeah, so, like, coming back to it, like, when I was about 11, 12 years old, I was at that stage where I was feeling heartbroken. I was feeling like, you know, I didn't know my place. You know, I wanted to be a bad man, but in my heart, I couldn't fully commit to it. Do you know what I mean? I wanted, like, you know, I wanted to do this, that, and the other, and I would do certain things, and then I'd feel regret in my heart. Okay. Do you know what I mean? And you couldn't show that because it's weakness, innit? But then when I went home at night, I'll be thinking to myself, you know, I'd pray to God. Even though I wasn't Muslim, I'd pray to God, and I'd say to God, you know, just help me, help me, guide me in one way or another. Do something for me to show me what I'm supposed to be or who I'm supposed to be. Because, you know, identity, you know, having that identity crisis at a very young age, I found that difficult because, you know, my parents and stuff, you know, they wouldn't take that seriously because I'm so young. You don't look at a child and think they're having an identity crisis. Yeah. You know what I mean? You just, or even anything like, you don't take their problem seriously because you think, oh, you remember being that young. You remember it's nothing when you grow up, innit? But, you know, it was difficult. So I would do things like, you know, after school, I'd go to church and I'd sit in church, and I would always I'd felt out of place. I felt very uncomfortable. Something just didn't sit right with me, innit? And I'd always do often things like write things on my hand, like God's child. I remember kids at school used to make fun of me and stuff like that. But I remember in my heart, I felt like there's two parts of me. You know, there's this evil part that wants to, you know, become some sort of, you know, negativity in the world. But then there was this other part of me where I really didn't want to. You know, it was a constant battle. So I was just at a stage where I just thought, you know what? I've had enough of life. I really felt like I'd been through so much in my life. I'd experienced so much, you know, had more than enough happen to me and done more than enough to others and things like that. So I just thought to myself, you know what? It's now or never. Either I'm going to commit suicide now at this age and just finish it all, or one way or another, I'm going to be guided to something else. So I had no idea. Like, I literally had no idea about what was going to happen or anything. But in my heart, I knew I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to live the way I am living. That's for sure. So I would, you know, it's not necessarily praise and put your hands together like, you know, Christians typically do and sit there and look up in the sky and whatever. I'll just be walking home and I'll just be thinking to myself, you know, God, like, if there is more to my life than what I've already experienced, then show me. Yeah. And if there isn't, then make it easy for me to take my own life. Yeah, and like, I remember walking home from primary school.
Literally do or die, bro.
Yeah, like in my mind, it was like that. It's like, you know, I'm done, innit? You know, you know, some people say I've reached a point, I'm done. Like, you know, but for me in my head, I really thought, you know what, I am done. You know, and I'd attempted a few things before that, and so I sort of knew what to expect, but I'd never obviously crossed the line over to the extent of, you know, obviously being successful in that venture. So yeah, and I just thought, you know what, I'm either ready to accept a new stage of life or a new part of life, or I'm ready to accept that I'm gonna accept death, basically. So yeah, Alhamdulillah. From then, it was sort of like in my heart, I knew I had to give some sort of time frame. You know, God doesn't just you make a prayer and God answers it straight away. You know, I knew from young, obviously being in a like loose Christian background, I knew that God does things in His own time. Yeah. You know, so I had that in my mind anyway. So I thought, you know what, let me just give it a period of time. And when I know I'm sure in my heart of one decision or the other, then I'll take that step. Until then, whatever happens, isn't it? So yeah, as time went on, like I remember I started becoming more aware, like obviously the brothers that I was chilling with on my road and that, they would have to start fasting in Ramadan because they're getting a bit older now and, you know, things are changing for them. So I remember like Ramadan, I would say to them, like, what is this about? Like, why are you lot starving yourselves? And, you know, why are you lot, like, one thing I used to see is that they would always meet other Muslims and they'll give salam to each other, hug each other, shake hands. And bro, how do you lot know so many people? And they're like, I have no idea who he is. Yeah. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what's this about then? This is strange, innit? But obviously I didn't really care about religion, innit? I was just intrigued into why they're doing these certain things. Yeah. And then I think I was about 10 years old when they started fasting. So I was like, you know what, let me give it a go. Why not? Like, all my friends are Asian. I'm the only one sitting here munching and drinking while we're all playing. So I thought, you know what, let me just give it a go. So I started fasting from about 10 years old. I started fasting with them. And obviously, before anyone gets excited, I didn't keep every single fast. I couldn't do it. Like, I was a fat kid. I was still, you know what I mean? I was a fat kid. I needed my food in it. Like, can't lie. Sometimes I'll go to my yard, quickly munch up, come back out, and they'll be like, oh, you fasted? I'm like, yeah. I was talking the most. But yeah, Alhamdulillah. So yeah, I started fasting with them, and that naturally got me a bit intrigued in it, because I remember, like, you know, even at that age, you're fighting your desire to eat. Yeah. And I'm saying, but how are you lot doing this? Like, I was struggling. Like I said, I would go to my house, eat quickly, come back out, and, you know, just pretend like I didn't, innit? Yeah. And they would explain to me, you know, we're not fasting because we want to lose weight. We're not fasting because we want to be healthy. We're fasting because this is something we have to do as Muslims. Yeah. So I was a bit, okay, fair enough. Like, I didn't really care too much about the religious side of it, but I just wanted to know why are you particularly doing what you're doing, innit? And then, so then as time went on, like, they would speak to me here and there about Islam and, you know, little things. And, you know, I was interested to a certain extent, but it wasn't like, right, I want to learn more. Yeah. It was just like, you know, that's nice. All right, cool. Like, pass the ball, let's carry on playing now, innit? Like, you know, it wasn't that deep to me. But Alhamdulillah, they carried on, you know, speak to me bit by bit, and, you know, just giving me little bits of information here and there. And then I started to notice, as, you know, we get a bit older, you know, you start going to town, you start chilling in town, you start going to the bigger parks in the area and stuff like this. And, you know, people give each other salam, and, you know, they would show each other a lot of love, and especially in Ramadan, people, you know, they would all go to each other's houses to eat, and they would bring food, and They would even bring food to my house before I wasn't a Muslim. Yeah, and I'll tell you, that gave me that love for the Asian food. You know, when I see auntie coming out with that plate, with the tin foil over the top, I used to sit at my window. I used to be saying, please come, please come, please come, please come. And I see her coming down my steps. I was like, yes, yes, are you mad? It's time to munch. Yeah, trust me, curries. That was the first time I had like curries and stuff in it. So I was like, yes. But what got me more was like, why are these people showing me so much love? And like it went from just genuine. It went from just being the white kid on the block and everyone be looking, oh, you know, that's the white kid. Don't be playing too much with him, you know. Yeah. But then all of a sudden they've been really nice to me and, you know, they want to talk to me and they want to engage in conversation. And I was just like, wow, this is weird. All just because I'm not eating during the day. Like, so I was like, okay, fair enough. And then I remember speaking to people more and more and more, and they would just give me small bits of information, and I just didn't, I'll be honest, like I wasn't really that intrigued. I didn't really care that much, but I would see that as we got older and we, you know, the kids got more freedom, I'd see how much more love they would get from outer communities. Because, you know, you would go out more, you know, you'd see more brothers and they would show each other love. And I just thought to myself, you know, subhanAllah, that's a lot of unity, you know, that's family, you know, they treat each other like family. And I was like, you know what, I want that. I want to be a part of that, you know, I want to be treated like family, you know, I want, because I come from quite a small family, you know, and especially moving from South Africa to here, there was pretty much nobody here. So for me, it was like, you know what, I want to be involved.
And you know what's mad, like, sorry to cut you, but I feel like that's a common theme amongst, like, you know, brothers, is like revert brothers and stuff, even myself included. But, you know, seeing that genuine brotherhood that Muslims have towards one another, like, it's not fake. Like, you know, coming from a non-Muslim background, you might not be able to really understand or comprehend, like, what it means. But when you see that brotherhood that Islam brings, especially during Ramadan and stuff like that, it's just, it's unexplainable, bro. Like, it's real love kind of thing, and it does make you question, like, right, you know what, like, it does make you want to know even more, innit? So I can completely relate to what you're saying, innit?
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, carry on, say.
Alhamdulillah, it's very true. Like, it's something that I had never even seen in another culture. Like, even amongst, you know, Sikhs, I grew up with a few of them, and, you know, even Christians themselves, you know, it was never like that. You know, you go to church and, you know, your auntie will be talking rubbish about this next auntie, and then, you know, they go to church and everyone's good again. You know, it's like, so it doesn't really intrigue you. You just think to yourself, oh, you know, my family's my family, yours is yours. We might go to the same church, but that doesn't mean anything. And but yeah, so eventually I was just like, you know what? I want to be part of this family. I want to be involved in this. Whatever these people are following and doing, I want to do that too, because clearly it's bringing them together, and I want to be with them. You know, I want to be involved. So I just remember saying to one guy one day, like one bro, I just said, you know, I want to be a Muslim. Like, how do I become a Muslim? And he said, you know, as long as you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you believe in the Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the final messenger, then khalas, you're Muslim. So I was like, all right, cool, I believe it. And he was like, well, then you're Muslim. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Like, no shahada, nothing. You just said, just believe it in your heart and you're fine, innit? Yeah. So for like 3 months, I was telling people, you know, I'm a Muslim, and, you know, people are trying to teach me to pray and that, but I wasn't really interested. I just wanted to be part of, you know, everybody else, innit? Like, part of the family. And then one brother said to me, have you ever been to the masjid? I'm like, nah, never. And he goes, oh, you should go. And he just said to me, go to this mosque down here, you know, they'll be good to you. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, just go. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. I'm not going. Like, I'm not going. Like, I don't know anything about this. Are you mad? You sending me to a random building? I'm like, nah. So then I bumped into 2 other brothers, and they were saying, you know, have you been to the mosque? I was like, nah, but this brother's trying to get me to go to the mosque and that, but, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing, innit? So, like, come with us. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we arranged, I think it was a Monday, and they said, you know, they do, at this particular masjid, they do like tea nights where non-Muslims can come in as well and stuff, and they would basically host everybody, and they would bring tea and coffee and biscuits and stuff like this. And so they said, you know, come along, come down, and, you know, see how you feel. Yeah. So I remember we were walking. Obviously, bear in mind, these brothers thought I was a Muslim anyway, and so one of the brothers just in conversation, he goes, "Oh, when did you take Shahada?" And I was like, "What's that?" And he goes, "What? You haven't taken Shahada?" I was like, "I don't even know what that is, bro. Like, you know, I just about know Salam Alaikum. At them times it was Salam Alaikum." And then these 2 brothers started jumping up and down, started going mad. Like, oh my day, you're doing it. Oh my day, you haven't taken Shahada. Do you want to take Shahada? And I was like, well, what is that? And they were like, that's why you become Muslim. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I want to do it. And they're jumping up and down. We're walking down the main road, and I just remember looking around thinking, bro, people are going to be looking at us thinking we're mad. Like, these lot jumping around like monkeys in that, bro. Like, literally jumping up and down, left and right. I was like, all right, cool. So they took me to the masjid. I remember walking in, And like there was like a few brothers that come straight up to me, and then I was like, whoa, what's going on? And they're like, nah, they're like, so they gave me salam and that, and I'm just there like, hello, and they were like, oh, you're Muslim, and I was like, well, apparently not. And then the brother sat down with me, opened the Quran. He was telling me a few things about Islam and you know the miracles of the Quran, for example. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. Like, you know, I was a bit like, you know, that's amazing, but it didn't really do anything to my heart at that point. I'll be honest. Like, even though he's explaining all these amazing things, you know, like even if you open up the middle of the Quran, it talks about the earth having an iron core, and you know, in the middle of the earth there is an iron core. And he was saying, you know, the Quran hasn't been changed in 1400 years, and all these things. I was like, you know what, that's nice, you know, that's cool. But for me, you know, I'm 13 and I'm like, cool, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference to my life, innit? So then he's like, you want to pray Isha with us? And I'm like, all right, cool. So we were in the front row and I was on the far left side, and I just remember just standing there, just doing this the whole time, looking at all the brothers and like, trying to copy everything, innit? And then afterwards, they've done their announcements and, you know, the typical mosque announcements and stuff. And then I remember them saying, yeah, there's a young brother who wants to take a Shahada today. And everyone's looking at me and I'm like, bro, there's like 150 people in this masjid. And it's a Monday night for Isha as well. I didn't know whether that was normal or not, innit? And they're like, yeah, come to the front of the mosque. And I'm like, what? You mad? I'm not coming to the front of the mosque.
Well, I felt shy of that.
Yeah, bro, I was shy. And then like, and you got the imam sat there, and you got the brother who was doing the announcements. And they're saying, come up. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I sat next to the imam. Imam was really nice, mashallah, very nice man. And he just asked me, you know, were you Christian before? And I said yes. And you know, he's basically taught me what to say and stuff. And then he's like, okay, say the English. So I said the English of I bear witness there is no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. And then it comes to the Arabic, and bro, it took me like 10 minutes to say the Arabic. Yeah. Because bro, he's saying repeat after me, and he's going Ashhadu Allah.
Oh, and so I'm he's like, in big chunks, isn't it?
Yeah, because he was an Arab brother himself, innit? So to him, this is normal, innit? Yeah. And I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm looking at him like, what? Like, bro. So he's had to break Ashhadu Allah, and then I got through it. Yeah. And wallahi, bro, as soon as I said Muhammadur Rasulullah, you know, people normally say it's like a weight lift off your shoulders. Yeah. Well, it genuinely felt like I was just sat on clouds. Like, it was like, it genuinely, the only way, like when Muslims will normally ask me, what does it feel like taking Shahada? I say to them, well, if you've ever been Hajj and your Hajj has been accepted, the way you will feel walking away from the Kaaba is probably what it feels like when you take a Shahada. Yeah. And I said to them, you know, like, bro, and then one brother from the back shouted Takbir. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then everybody shouted Allahu Akbar. And I was a mixture of emotions. I was so happy, but at the same time, I'm thinking, is it on? Like, what's going on? Like, did I do something wrong? Yeah. And now, man, everyone got up, everyone's smiling, giving me hugs. And there was the one particular brother who took me there. May Allah have mercy on him. I mean, I got up and I looked at him, and everyone's giving me hugs and that, and I'm just focused on this brother, and I went up to him, gave him the tightest hug in the world. And he was a very skinny brother, innit? I squeezed the life out of that brother. And I said to him, wallahi, my exact words were, I don't know why, but this is the best decision I've ever made. And bear in mind, I didn't know anything about Islam but until then, innit? So then, Alhamdulillah, I took my Shahada then. I remember the brothers all saying to me, you know, you're going to come back for Fajr, and, you know, they all want to give me gifts and stuff. They're saying, come to my house, do this, do that. And I'm like, whoa, like, I'm like, why not? You know, I'm going to give you gifts, innit? I'm not going to say no, innit? Like, we come from, I've come from a poor background. So, you know, when someone gives you gifts, man, you're grateful, innit? You're grateful. And then, so the brothers are all giving me gifts and stuff, and, you know, saying, make dua for me. And everyone's saying, you know, you're so close to Allah right now. Make dua. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. I remember walking home, and I'm just walking around, crossing the road, making dua. And I'm like, I don't know what to ask for, but, you know, why not? And I'm just saying, this Asian guy with a big beard asked me to ask you to have mercy on him. And there was another older man who said the same thing. Man, it was a bit like that. And, well, wallahi, one thing I remember clearly, and I always have to tell people, you know, the next day it was a Monday, as I said, it was school days, innit? And I skipped school the next day and the next day after that to go to the masjid. Okay. I was smiling for 2 days straight. That on the Wednesday, my cheeks were actually sore. Like, I actually had to put like cream on it because it was sore. I went to sleep smiling. I woke up smiling. Like, I went to the mosque, like, from the morning. I took my school uniform and that, saying goodbye to my mum, like, yeah, I'm going to school. Or as soon as I got round the corner through the alleyway, took my clothes off, put my normal clothes on, straight to the masjid. And we would just sit there, man. Alhamdulillah, it was honestly, it was amazing.
Honestly, that's real beautiful, man. Like, because from what you're saying, it sounds like you'd been through a lot from a young age. So it only made sense that, you know what I mean, when you found guidance and stuff, it was going to be at a young age as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So alhamdulillah, that's beautiful, man. But obviously, so now that's from 13 to 23. Yeah, you've been Muslim 10 years. Talk us through, like, you know, life as a Muslim now. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure it can't have been just smooth right up until now kind of thing, innit? Do you know what I'm saying? So talk us through that, like some of the challenges you faced, or do you get me? Some issues you had and that.
And to be honest, I would definitely say that my revert story isn't even over yet. Like, I was still, even 10 years into it, it's still not over. Like, because you know what, you experience new challenges as you go, and obviously everyone, it's natural, isn't it? But I went through stages where, you know, I was really practicing and I wanted to learn. Like, you know, I would stay up all night learning. You know, you go through particular stages where you can't even sleep because you're so excited to get up for Fajr that you can't even sleep.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You go through that stages to other stages where you don't pray for weeks and months on end, and, you know, you still have that belief in your heart, but, you know, it's still,
You know, taking it as serious as you should.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like,
So, I mean, how did your mum take it, first of all? And
my
your
mum,
sister, yeah.
do you know what? There was no build up from my mum at all. It wasn't like, you know, I'm looking into religion, I literally came home that Monday night. I was like, I'm a Muslim. You can't give me ham sandwiches for school no more. And that was it. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, she was cool.
Yeah, like, she thought I was young. I'm going through a phase, you know, I'm going to grow out of it, innit? So I still remember for like a month, she was still giving me ham sandwiches.
Yeah.
And every day I'm coming home with it. And she was seeing it. She's like, why didn't you eat a sandwich? I was like, I told you I'm Muslim. I can't be doing that.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, what am I going to give you? I was like, I don't care. I'll go to school without sandwich. I don't need it. So then, Alhamdulillah, my mum was cool. She was cool with it.
And your sister?
Like, my sister, like, I didn't have really much of a close relation with my sister, but like, it was just, my sister was on her stuff, I was on my stuff, and that was that, and you know, so we didn't really mix the two. But you know, when you're a revert, you are very passionate, and you know, you want everyone to feel what you just felt, innit?
Yeah.
So like, I try to give them dawah and stuff, but it was too much power, too much passion.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, you know, you'd say, oh, you know, there's 16 million different versions of the Bible, and there's only one Quran. What's wrong with you people? You know, why do you follow this? And you know, God never said I have a son, but you don't believe this, and this Holy Spirit, and what's wrong with you? You know, you get too passionate. So like, that sort of created barriers, in particular with my sister as well, innit?
Allah guide them though, man.
I mean,
really, he's a turner of hearts, man. And what about your old man? Like,
to be honest,
telling him,
I don't really, like, I had a bit of a rocky relationship with my dad growing up, innit? So when my mum and dad got divorced, like, I was actually quite happy at that stage, innit? Because I knew what I was getting away from, innit? So like, even my dad, I don't think he even knew that I was a Muslim for years. Even later on, I found out my mum told him, but between the two of us, I didn't know that he knew that I was a Muslim for many, many years to come, for like 6 years or so afterwards, something along them lines, innit? So yeah, alhamdulillah, like, by that stage, my dad had sort of accepted it, innit? Because, you know, it's sort of the choice between having a Muslim son, or not having a son, innit? So, you know, it was, for any rational man, you know, you'd rather just have your son and let him do what he needs to do, and, you know, take the path he wants to take. So yeah, alhamdulillah, that was.
Yeah, but like you were saying, my bro, so what, you've had times where you was really on Deen, your iman was high and stuff like that, and you've had times where, do you know what I'm saying, you face challenges. Like, what would bring you to sort of stop praying, for example? What would be going on for you to be like, oh man, forget this?
Do you know what? I think when you're a fresh revert, everything's high, you know, you're sinless.
Yeah.
So everything's high. And also, Shaytan sends an army of jinn to attack you when you take a Shahada. So, you know, at that point, I felt high and mighty. I felt like, you know, I'll fight off anything. Like, I don't care what it is. I'm a Muslim, you know, I would walk around town blasting the sheeds, wearing a Soldier of Allah hoodie. You know, I didn't care, in it. I wanted everybody to know I was a Muslim, and I wanted everyone to be a Muslim as well. So I think, you know what it is, like, as time goes on, it's easy to, like we were saying on the way, you know, it's easy to get to that stage, but to maintain that stage, that was the difficult part. You know, as the months go on, you know, obviously you do accumulate a bit of sins, which affects your heart. You know, you lower your gaze, and then at one time you didn't lower your gaze, your mind just goes mad. Do you know what I mean? It's like Shaytan just puts in overtime in that moment, innit? Do you know what I mean? So for me, it was like Shaytan sat back and waited for that one little slip up. And as soon as that one little slip up happened, then not far after, another one happened, another one. And then it becomes
like a snowball effect.
Yeah. So that's what they normally say, like, you know, if you were practicing and you become jahil after practicing, you normally become more jahil than you were before you even started practicing. And that is true. Like, it's true, because, you know, like, you can easily say to someone, you know, you can easily be practicing for 2-3 months or whatever, but then once you start slowly, you know, social media was quite a big thing when I was growing up. Like, Instagram had just come about and it was just picking up. So, you know, all of a sudden you didn't need to walk around in the streets to, you know, see something you shouldn't see. It was on your phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was all these things, like everything became so accessible just at your fingertips. So it became a bit easier to be some type of way outside and then another way inside. But then over a period of time, the way you are inside will affect how you are when you go out. Do you know what I mean? What you put in your mind will result in what you are as a person. And I think that's what sort of happened to me, that when I became Muslim, I jumped so far into Islam and this and that, and like I just neglected everything that I was beforehand. But then, you know, as the other brother who was on here was saying, you know, you can't forget your roots. I completely forgot everything that I was, and then all of that started creeping back in slowly, innit? And I think that's what sort of threw me off a little bit, that I was like, raw, you know, I've still got desires, you know, but I want to get married. But because I'm 13, 14 years old, you know, and I'm trying to chat to uncle or something like that, uncle's telling me,
listen,
shush.
You got to touch up on that one, because, I feel you, bro. All right, so you become Muslim when you was 13. Obviously, to fulfill certain desires, you got to be married. What was that like, trying to find a wife at 13, bruv? Like, did people take you serious, or like, you get me? Yeah, you got to tell us.
You know what? My wife's going to be watching this. No, you know what? It was quite difficult, because, you know, you would have girls trying to chat to you and stuff. And then straight away, like for me, I would be telling them, you know, it's got to be marriage or nothing. And for them, they're like, hold on. Like, what do you mean? Like, we ain't even done GCSEs and you want to talk about Nikkah? Like, you must be mad. And they'd be like, nah, you know, let's just chill. Let's see how it goes. All this. I'm like, nah, man. It don't work like that. So I remember, like, there was a particular sister from another area, and, you know, she was quite a bit older than me, about 23 or so, and I was about 13, 14. And, you know, I used to like to give dawah and stuff. So she messaged me, and, you know, she's just asking me Islamic questions and stuff. But like I said, I grew up quickly in it. So I wasn't stupid. I knew these questions were only leading to conversation in it. So I just said to her straight, like, it's either marriage or nothing, innit? She's like, yeah, chat to my dad and whatever. And chatting to her dad, everything's going well.
How old
He's
was
like,
the sister?
23.
Okay, and you're still 13.
Yeah.
13. All right,
So I was quite a bit younger than her. And I was chat to her dad, and conversation didn't last long. He's like, yeah, you know, where you from? Here. How old are you? 13. Beep.
Hung up
I'm
the
like,
phone.
what? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, uncle. Assalamu alaikum, uncle. Man's like, no. He's like, no way. I'm like, oh man. So yeah, that basically, that gave me a big reality check in it, because I was like, raw, like, you know, I really want to get married, but what's the possibility? But it was still like, you know, from then I made dua, you know, I always made dua. I want children, I want to be a husband, I want to be a father, you know, I want these things. And I used to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please, you know, grant it to me. But then a brother also advised me, always make the dua, oh Allah, what's good for me, bring it closer to me. Oh Allah, what's bad for me, distance me from it.
Like, subhanAllah, because obviously from what you're saying, I can imagine, even just, let's say, having that rejection or having people that aren't on the same wavelength as you, that surely must have affected your mind as well. Do you get me? Because you're out here, you know, your heart's clean, you're trying to do everything the right way, but no one's taking you serious, or like, do you know what I'm trying to say? You're facing these obstacles. Like, how did you like overcome that? Like you're saying, obviously dua was one thing, but
like, to be honest, it was quite difficult, because even when I speak to my mum and I say to mum, I want to get married, and mum will say to me, you come home married, you're gonna get it. And I'm like, oh man, like, it was difficult. Like, I used to be very angry, you know, I used to have a lot of anger in me, because I'm like, you know, I'm trying to do things halal. I don't want boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't want to be caught behind the bike shed at school and any of this funniness. You know, I want to be halal. So I would be angry. And, you know, the brothers at the masjid would say to me, you know, yeah, bro, you do it. It's sunnah to get married young. Go for it. Then I had other brothers who were saying to me, bro, you're not young. You're not ready yet. You're not ready. You know, you need to be financially stable. You need to be able to provide. You know, you need to be able to do all these things for your wife. I'm like, yeah, but, you know, I've got this desire in me, and I want to do things halal way. I want to, you know, it's not just about, you know, I want to get in the bedroom straight away. You know, I've always wanted the companionship. Exactly. So for me, like, the only things I could do at that time was dua, but at the same time, you know, that also did push me towards haram things. Because no one would take me seriously. I was never taught how to control these desires. You know, even from young age, or even being Muslim, you know, they say fast and do these things and that. But let's be honest, you know, if you're used to living, if you're used to certain things, and then all of a sudden you're not, you know, and obviously people are gonna watch this and think, but you were so young. Like, trust me, you don't know what people get up to at certain ages. Like, you know, and even with my children now, sometimes I say to my wife, you know, we gotta be careful, and she's like, but they're so young. I'm like, trust me though, innit? You know, today's society is mad.
Don't underestimate them. The power of what would you you say, like sort of
Society,
really,
yeah.
media and that. You get me?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, like for me, I think to overcome it, I couldn't actually say that I overcame it, because I never stopped wanting to get married, and I did still pursue that, but it also led me to being in haram relationships in order to achieve that.
Yeah.
You know, so it did. I wouldn't say I overcome it. I'd say actually having all of those things was good for me. That I realized that now, 10 years later, I realized all the rejections and the patience was good thing for me.
Yeah.
But being that age, had I had that patience, or then I would have saved myself a lot of problems.
SubhanAllah. But I think that would get into a deeper discussion, I think, like, which needs to be had, like, you know, if you've got kids, or if you know young brothers or young sisters that want to get married, wanting to do the halal way, like, we should obviously nurture them good feelings, but like you said, there has to be certain things in place, like, okay, can you financially provide, can you do this? If you can't, how can, like, you as a parent help them, or do you know what I'm saying, or aid that situation? But for me, I feel like it's good to want those things, but it's good to also be serious kind of thing. So it is a deeper discussion, I think, you know, as Muslims we should have, like, how can we get that balance and not put someone away? Because like you said, all that rejection, people not taking you serious, it ended up leading you to haram, which is the last thing you want to lead a brother to. Do you get me? So inshallah, man, I think there should be a deeper discussion on that one.
I agree, man. You know, just on a very quick touching on it, like, you know, one thing I would say that would have helped is actually education from a younger age on these things. Not just, you know, you're going to grow up and you're going to have certain desires, and, you know, you need to put it away. You need to lock it in a box in your mind and forget about it until it's time. Till you get 18, 19, then maybe we'll think about it. Nah, man. Because you know what? Some kids, that maybe they're not in the financial position and stuff, but mentally they are in that situation where, you know, it's one way or the other. There's no, like, some kids don't have that patience, you know. Not every person has so much sabr that they can cope with all those years. And I was one of those kids, you know. You had the desires. I wasn't taught how to deal with it. I wasn't taught how to, you know, suppress it, or I wasn't educated on, you know, means of actually getting through it, you know, in terms of literally dealing with it. So, you know, you resort to means that, you know, are going to actually bring you closer to Jahannam. And that's pretty much what happens. So I think, you know, educating the kids on actually, one, what they're going to experience, how they're going to experience it, because not everyone's going to experience the same thing. But also at the same time, what to expect. But at the same time, put the notion into the head that boyfriend and girlfriend is completely, you know, it's not just, oh, it's haram, but actually educate them on the effects of it. Because, you know, you fall in love with a girl, then you have to break up with her. You know, you go through the heartache, and a lot of the times heartbreak, Shaytan attacks very, very much at times of hardship. You know, and that's very easy at that time. You know, how many girls growing up, for example, in school, did you know they had their heart broken, and all of a sudden they're doing some mad stuff for, you know, a few months, they're doing some crazy stuff, like, and, you know, I know people are going to be watching this, and they're going to, it's going to bring that thought, like, oh, I remember in school, or I remember in college, like, I remember that time, innit? For real. You know, and that's what happens, innit? But no one's educated. Everyone thinks that, oh, you know, I'm going to have this boyfriend, then I'm going to get married to him, and then it's all going to be, you know, hunky-dory. But reality, it isn't, man. I remember girls saying to guys, you know, you're my first and last. And now, all them years later, they ain't married, and I know they ain't been behaving either, innit? So, you know, and so, yeah, man, I think everyone says, oh, education, but education, but actually educate on the right things. Do you know what I mean? The
beneficial
reality.
Knowledge, beneficial education, for real, man. Alhamdulillah, obviously, because you said it a few times, but you're actually married now, innit?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you got there in the end, innit? But talk us through that then, like, how long you been married, and, you know, what led up to you being married, and them type of stuff, man.
Take a big sip for that one. So, for me, so when I reached about 18, 19, you know, I was involved in a haram relationship, and it was literally on the borderline of actually getting married. I had got to know her father. Father was happy. Father was even encouraging her to marry me. But, you know, sometimes this is another thing that comes down to education. You know, these red flags that you see, a lot of the times with haram love, you make excuses for these red flags. You know, you think, oh, yeah, you know, even girls, you know, nowadays girls always want to change the bad boy. They want to, you know, they think they're the one that can help him and make him into this, you know, God-fearing person. And, you know, sometimes it goes the other way. You know, it's reality. So, without going too much into that situation, basically, you know, I was with someone who I believed that I wanted to marry. My heart was fully into it. And, you know, like I said, I thought I was in love before, but up until this moment, that's when I was like, raw, you know what? life is actually real. You know, this love thing that people talk about, it's not just fairy tale, it's real.
Yeah.
And you know, I made excuses for red flags and stuff like that, and vice versa. You know, I wasn't perfect either, innit?
Yeah.
And I was basically 2 weeks away. So her father went to go do Umrah, and when he come back from Umrah was when I was gonna say, listen, can I have your daughter's hand? And he had already, you know, pushed us to basically get married. He had already spoken to her about it. He had touched on it with me. You know, her family was cool with me, I was cool with them. And then situation happened, and Alhamdulilah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put some strength in my heart to walk away and say, you know what, there's got to be a line. And that line was about a year ago, but Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pushed me over the edge to actually realize now this is not good. So after that situation, I just thought, you know, I went through that phase, I'm never getting married, forget this stuff, I'm not involved, you know, So I just went AWOL, and you know, I became jahil, and you know, I got, like I said before, once you practicing and then you become jahil, you get even worse.
You go harder,
And that's what happened. You know, I jumped into jahiliyyah even further into the deep end, and so at that point in my life, I was just thinking, I need money, you know, and that's it right now. I don't need to worry about financially providing for people or whatever. I need to get money for myself. You know, I had bills to pay and things like this. You know, I was at that age.
And did you care how you got that money, or was by any means necessary kind of thing?
Man, it was, if there was a price tag on it, then why not? You know, who cares, isn't it? Like, obviously, in your heart, you still feel that this is haram, it's not right. But then when you've got, say, a couple stacks in your hand, or you know, underneath your bed, you know, your bed's full, or, you know what I mean? Or even when you're surrounded by people who, on a regular basis, you're seeing them make what, you know, in school, what your teacher would make in 2 months, they made in 2 days. You know, then you're thinking, bro, I want in on that. You know, like, come on. And that's pretty much what happened, you know, like I saw so much money around me from all different angles and different, different pathways that people took. But I saw which one was paying the most. So I thought, you know what, I got bills to pay, I need money. And, you know, I was driving at this time, I'm thinking, I've got insurance. My insurance was mad. You know, like I was paying like 4 bills a month for a smart car with a black box. I'm like, bro, this is nuts. Like, so I'm having bills, I've got all this, I was in debt as well and all these things. So I was like, you know what, if I can go get a job, I was making like 1,400 a month from working 60 hours a week, you know, doing security, all this stuff. And I was thinking, hold on a minute, if I put that same time into another haram venture, I could be making 1,400 a day, or even a week, you know. And then, obviously got involved in whatever I got involved in, and yeah, man, I just started to see, like, every time I think to myself, right, I'm done, like, I don't want to be involved in this, somehow my income would double from that particular place, and then it would double.
It's almost
like
Shaytan's trying to keep you in it.
Yeah,
in the game,
honestly, like, it was mad. Like, then it come to a point where, you know, there was so much money around you that, you know, you had to start spreading it out. You know, you had to drop it off to this person, and that person had to look after this amount and that amount. And you start thinking to yourself, like, right, you know, I'm not rich, but I'm wealthy. You know, like, you can easily go to Bicester Village, spend a couple bags, and you think, doesn't matter. You know, 2 weeks time, that's gonna be a joke. Like, so yeah, man. So I was at that stage in my life where, you know, I was I can't say Alhamdulillah, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah. I was making money, and you know, and coming from a poor background, when you see £1,000 in your hand, that, you know, is not for bills, it's for you. That's a lot. But then, you know, when you're seeing that regularly, constantly, over and over and over, then you're thinking, right, you know, I remember a time when we could only get a £5 pizza when my mum got paid once a month. That was it. You know, remember my mum didn't eat some nights, and then some nights we only had salad for dinner, and, you know, things like this. So all of a sudden I come home, mum's hungry, don't worry, we'll order something straight away, boom, this, that. And, you know, it does provide you with some sort of good feeling, like, you know, now I'm finally able to provide back. But yeah, so I was at that stage, like, where I thought, marriage, I'm not involved with that. I don't care. You know, I wasn't cared about girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, desires, all of that. I didn't care. My desire was money. You know, that's what made me wake up in the morning. And then I remember that I was on Instagram one night, and there was this particular sister that I used to go to school with. She was a few years older than me, and she stood out for all the good reasons, mashallah. You know, she was very modest, you know, kept her gaze lowered. She was quiet, you know, any good quality that you could think of in a particular sister, you know, this sister had. So I had her on Instagram, and I saw that she shouted out this business. And I saw this business, I thought, well, if this sister's shouting it out, there's barakah in this business. There's something good, you know, there's someone special behind this. So I remember I ordered, it was a bakery, but the sister does baking. Yeah. So I ordered some brownies, and I just thought, I didn't think nothing of it, innit? And then sister, the bakery business, sister messaged me saying, oh, your brownies are ready. I was like, oh man, I wasn't expecting that the same night, innit? I thought it was like pre-order, So I just said to the sister, obviously, I didn't make it obvious what I was up to, but I was like, listen, I ain't going to be free until late tonight, yeah? So you might as well just, don't worry about it. I'll either get it tomorrow or whatever. And she was like, no, you need to collect it tonight because, the fruit and stuff will be funny. Yeah, keep it fresh. So I was like, all right, cool. I can come at like 10 o'clock tonight. Is that cool? She was like, yeah, that's fine. So I remember pulling up, and I obviously had a long day, driving all day, doing whatever, this, that, and the other. I'm just like, raw, man, I just want to get this, leave, go home, eat and sleep, and that's it. So I remember walking up to this house, and this house, mashallah, it had so much noor, it had so much light to it. And, it's not like it was painted, not like it had lights or anything, but it was just bright, innit? And I remember knocking on the door, and this small sister opened the door. Yeah. And, and I remember so much noor. Obviously, I wasn't expecting a sister. I was looking at the door, and so much noor coming from the sister's face, from the house behind her, as in the surroundings. Yeah. And I just remember I looked down, I lowered my gaze, and I'm just like, I felt nervous. I was like, what's going on? From every angle that I was looking at, I could just see noor. And I remember no, because you read about it in hadith, you see it in movies, fairy tales, all this rubbish, but you never ever think you're gonna meet someone who literally has noor emanating from their face, innit? Or from them, from themselves. So I remember I was nervous. I'm looking down. I'm like, I'm here for the brownies, and I'm just there. So she's like, yeah, no worries. She's gone, got the brownies and that, and I'm stood there nervous wreck. And I'm like, bro, I'm a confident guy in general, innit? I'm not, I'm a nervous wreck, bro. I'm stood there looking down. I don't know where to put my hands, putting my pocket, taking out my pocket. Do I look this way? Do I look that way? I'm just like, don't know what I'm doing with myself. And then she come back. She gave me the brownies. I said thank you, blah blah blah. And so then said salam, left. I remember she got 2 steps going down on her driveway, and I was like jelly, like my legs were like jelly. I was so shocked. Yeah, I stumbled down the stairs, and all I'll be hearing behind me is, I'm like, allow it, man. I just violated myself. I violated myself. I'm like, man, I was just like, that's anything but smooth. Like. And then allow it, bro. It seems like it's bringing back memories for him. But no, alhamdulillah. So I remember walking away to my car, and even though having that embarrassing situation just happened, I remember all I could think to myself is, what about this sister makes her so special that there's noor from my house, from myself, on you kind of thing. Yeah, okay. Crazy. I remember I was driving back, and it was about half an hour drive from that house to my house. The whole way I'm driving back, I'm thinking, that was crazy, I've never experienced that. I'm trying to make it make sense in my head, innit? And I'm thinking, is there something she does, or is there something wrong with me? Did I, something in my eye or something like? And I'm just thinking, no, like, I know what I saw. I saw noor coming from a house, from a brick house that was on a row of other houses. I saw that house had noor. Then I'm thinking, but I've never seen someone, you see beautiful people, mashallah, and even when you're young, you don't necessarily lower your gaze and stuff, but you don't see someone that literally looks like they're shining, not sweaty shining, like shining, innit? And yeah, subhanAllah. So I got home, had the brownies, enjoyed it, whatever. I remember that night, like, I just couldn't sleep, and I kept on thinking, what was so special about this sister? What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed her, not only herself but her house with noor? And I remember I couldn't sleep, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do something haram here. So, but I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I was like, you know what? I need to just message the sister to say thank you for the brownies, whatever, and just ask her, what was it? So I remember typing this message, and I'm thinking to myself, she's going to think I'm such a weirdo. Like, I'm saying, listen, I'm sorry. I know I'm not a weirdo. Please don't take this in a strange way. But when you open the door, obviously I was nervous. I was expecting a man to be there. But when you open the door, I saw so much noor. What is it? What do you do? Like, do you get up for tahajjud every night? Do you give in charity all the time? Do you look after an elderly, the sick or something? Yeah. And she laughed it off, and she's like, you need some help in it. You got sugar rush or something in it. Like, something's not right with you in it. And I'm like, nah, but seriously, all jokes aside, like, I'm not trying to have chit chat. What is it that you do? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, I'm just living a normal life. My husband, she obviously had been married. My husband passed away a few years ago. I've got children. All I'm trying to do is I make money on the side just to support my children a bit more. Yeah. So I'm like, but, I obviously sympathize and everything, but I'm like, but there still must be something, there's something extra. You're doing something crazy. Like, I said to her, if you don't want to tell me your good deeds, you don't want to tell me good deeds. Fair enough, innit? But I just want to know because I can see that there's something special about you, and I want to be in that category. You know, I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to feel like that about me as well. And
even, sorry to cut you, but even through all the madness you was doing and stuff like that, up and down, like with the Deen, you still felt that thing like you want to be close to Allah. You know what I'm saying? No matter what you're doing, you still want to be amongst the ones Allah loves. And I think that's beautiful, man. I think that shows real sincere. Obviously, I don't want to gas you up on that, but bro, like, you know what I'm saying? MashaAllah, it's good, man. But
yeah, man, just on a side point, like, you know, a lot of people, especially reverts, a lot of people say to you, you know, are you still Muslim? Are you still Muslim? But I think, you know what, when you become a Muslim, there's not a question of, are you still Muslim? Are you practicing? Yes or no? That's questioning. But you never, once you're a Muslim, you know you're a Muslim. You know what I mean? If you became Muslim for the right reasons, or Allah has guided you to Islam, that's it. You know, those whom Allah guides, none can misguide. Do you know what I mean? So even though I was jahil, I wasn't even praying, you know, these sorts of things, I still, in my heart, I wanted to be a wali Allah. I wanted to be a friend of Allah. Even though my actions didn't say so, I knew what was in my heart. You know? So even when I saw this sister and I had this, I thought to myself, this might be an opportunity to educate. Educate myself on something I could do. You know, even if it's just one good deed. You know, maybe something I could do. And she just basically explained to me that no, you know, she's a widowed sister. She's got 3 children. You know, she lives on her own with her children. They're young. There's not much to it that she can really say. So I remember just asking questions, you know, like, how do you deal with that sort of loss? Because, you know, you've lost boyfriends, girlfriends, stuff like that. You know, everyone, okay, inshallah, not everybody, but, you know, most of us have been through that. But I'm saying, you know, this is a husband, you know, this is someone that she spent 10 years with him, you know, married to him and, you know, children with and stuff. So I asked her, how do you deal with this loss? And, you know, she just put it to me simpler, you know, you got to have a balance of sabr and shukr, you know, patience and gratitude. And so obviously naturally one question led onto the other because I was really intrigued. But then after about 2 weeks or so, like, I sort of slapped myself and I was like, hold on a minute, this is chit chat. So I just said to her, listen, there's no chit chat, you know, we don't do boyfriend, girlfriend stuff and this whole friends or whatever. It doesn't work like that. And I'm not on that. I don't do that. And obviously she made it very clear she's not like that either. So she just said to me, listen, I'm going to Umrah. What exactly? She just says, I'm going to Umrah, so I don't know exactly where my heart is, but through Umrah, let's see what happens, basically. So she went to Umrah, Alhamdulillah, and she came back. And I remember the whole time she was in Umrah, I just kept on having this strange feeling. I miss this person, you know, and I'd still want to get to know more and more and more, you know. There's so much to it. Like, this is an experience I've never experienced in my life. This is a type of person I've never met in my life, you know. So there's a lot that I wanted to know. But obviously I knew within the boundaries I couldn't get to know too much. So she came back from Umrah and we were talking a little bit, and I just said to her, you know, where's your heart at now? You know, and she's saying, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided me with a level of closure where before Umrah I could never imagine marrying, or even the thought of marriage never came to my mind. However, now she's saying, now, you know what, I'm considering it, and, you know, it's something that I'm willing to look into. So we got to know each other a bit more, and, you know, as time went on, you know, she's telling me about her kids and stuff like this. And obviously, just on a side note to anyone who's actually listening, you know, the haram interactions is not advisable, and, you know, may Allah forgive us all for all of us who have done it. Ameen. But, you know, in this particular situation, it's not an excuse at all. You know, the sister had children and things like this, so whoever she brought to her parents, she needed to be sure that this is someone worthy of being brought to the parents. Especially with kids, you know, you don't want to introduce them to someone and then another one and another one, another. You know, you need to be sure of who you bring to your children, because that's obviously for a mother, that's the most important thing. So we got to know each other a little bit, and then we found out there was a bit of an age gap between us. Okay. She was saying so
she was older than you,
yeah, she was older. She's gonna kill me, bro.
I agree. Don't say that. Yeah,
let's just say, if you, depending on which opinion you take, the difference between Khadija radiallahu anha and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, depending on which opinion you take, innit? But yeah, so then she basically said to me, you know, you're young, you've got so much life to live, and obviously by this time I was probably about 22, 23, about 22, 21, 22. So she's saying, you know, you've got life to live. You know, why would you want to take on children and wife, and, you know, it's just responsibility, and, you know, life ain't all hunky-dory. You're not always sitting around reading Quran with your kids and your wife, and it's not like that. You know, you got to deal with tantrums and, you know, getting up them for school and stuff. It's not easy. So I was saying to her, you know, subhanAllah, and, you know, that moment it clicked for me, because I remember being stood there, and I was thinking in my head, subhanAllah, you know what? From age of 13, I made dua for a wife. I made dua for children. I made dua for all these things, you know, and I'd been through all these experiences with, you know, trying to get married and it flopping and all these things. I've been through all these experiences and trying my best. And that was me actively trying. Yeah. And I thought it all flopped through. Yeah. But the one time where I didn't put in the effort to go and seek something, and I just thought, you know what, whatever happens, happens. If Allah wills, Allah wills. When I didn't do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought someone to me that has children, has experience of being a wife, and also ticks the boxes for me. Because, you know, I didn't want someone who's really young and into social media and, you know, all this societal rubbish. And so I was like, wow. So I said that to her. I said, you know what? Like, you're looking at it as a negative, whereas I'm looking at it as my du'as have been answered. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you know, you might think I'm nuts. You probably already do. But, you know, I've been making du'a for this for 10 years, 10 years. And I feel like in my heart, I felt like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had answered my du'as all in one. You know, all in one. I'd been granted a wife and children all in one. Fair enough. It wasn't exactly how I envisioned it, but Allah knows what I do not.
The best of planners.
Exactly.
The planners.
So, so she was a bit thinking, she just kept on saying to me, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Like, do you know what I mean? What's wrong with you? Like, who would want this? And I'm saying to her, but it's not about who would want this. It's about, this is what I want. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for me, and this is what I know in my heart is right. And you know, I'm explaining to her, it's sunnah to marry someone who's divorced, married who's widowed. You know, it's sunnah to take care of orphans, which they are.
Oh, I gotta give you respect for that one, my bro. Real talk, fam. I gotta give you respect for that, man. Because subhanAllah, like, you, bruv, like, that's a big thing to do, you know, like, you know, in the society, and that, you know, taking on a woman who might be 10, 15 years older than you. She's got kids, you know what I'm saying, divorced, widows. And I don't know how much you follow on this, you know, that this whole red pill theory and stuff like that, about how this and that, like, a woman with kids and that is, you know what I'm saying, it's lesser, or even culturally they say this stuff, but that's not what Islam brought, bruv. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone knows that the Prophet ﷺ, apart from Aisha, all his wives were like either divorced or widowed and stuff like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's like you're saying, it is kind of a sunnah, and we do need to change that narrative. That, do you know what I'm saying? Like, 100%. You can't think any less or any more of a person based upon their situation. Rather, it's their man. Like you were saying, the Noor coming from her face, her love for Allah. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what differentiates. You get me? Like, how we should judge people. But bro, that's beautiful, 100%. Man. Yeah,
100%, man. You know what? I think I was also one of those people who had that mindset before that. You know, like, I'm gonna say something that, you know, some people might be like, what? I might turn the volume down a bit, but I had the mindset of, if the sister's not a virgin, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Real though. A lot of brothers see it like that.
It's true.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
and it's true, man. Like, and to be honest, it's a lot of brothers who are not themselves who want that, innit? You know what I mean? That's the realness of it. Bro. But this is the thing, like, I was in the same mindset. I had the mindset of, if she's not a virgin, if she's not hijabi, if she's not, you know, praying 5 times, if she's not this, like, I had a list that was longer from Birmingham to London. You know what I mean? Like, the list was mad. But you know what? When I actually got involved in that situation myself, yes, I'll admit that it's not easy. You know, no marriage is. Any married brother will tell you it's not easy. Having children, no person with children that are biological, is still not easy. But I will say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up so much more doors, because you're completing the sunnah of actually getting married, but you're also completing the sunnah of, you know, marrying a divorcee or a widow or something along them lines, you know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just open those 2 doors for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens those 10 doors for you. And I think culturally and things like, the culture has become like poison. You know, culture has become a poison for so many people that, you know what I mean? They don't look further than what their forefathers used to do or what their family back home are gonna say or whatever. But they don't realize that the barakah in actually doing these things. Like, even me, alhamdulillah, with my wife, like, I don't deal with half the amount of rubbish that I've dealt with so many other people. You know, and even having someone who's been married before has had issues. You know, has experienced certain things. You know, has experienced a lot of things that, you know, been through problems and stuff. So they already have that knowledge of, you know what, this approach is going to work. The maturity, the difference of approach, you know, they accept things. And especially, you know what, in particular for widows and divorcees, they know what it's like to lose someone. So they appreciate time. You know, they appreciate smaller things. They don't want to be going to expensive restaurants every day. They just want to be close to you while you're eating. Do you know what I mean? Like, one thing my wife and I always make a habit of is, you know, we always share one glass. will never ever have two glasses. Never ever. Like, even when the kids set the table.
Don't be saying that too loud, bro. I'm like, certain brothers, our wives will start expecting like, yo, how come we don't do that? Nah, but mashallah, honestly, that's beautiful, man. Like, for real, like, yeah.
It's true, man.
Bro, you're actually kind of like making an example, bro, like a good example. And I'm glad you sort of touched on this topic and, like, you get me, you said your story, because we need that, man. We need more positive sort of like outlook on certain things. You get me? How society and culture looks at certain things isn't how Islam looks at things. So we need to start having that Islamic mindset and, like, you get me, doing things for the sake of Allah, not just what people think or how society will perceive me and stuff like that. So, bro, like, once again, man, mad respect, bro. You get me? And Allah, you know, continue to put barakah in your marriage, you know what I'm saying, and your family and stuff, my bro.
I appreciate it. And I think, you know, it's definitely something that, inshallah, you know, we all need to talk about a lot more, because, you know, I think people a lot of the time overlook, like, we talk a lot about barakah and stuff, but they overlook where's all this barakah coming from. You know, where's, you know, marriages. Think about how many times brothers and sisters want to get married, you know, then they spend 20, 30, 40 grand on a wedding. You know, the sister who was a hijabi is no longer hijabi on the wedding day. You know, she was wearing an abaya, now she's wearing something really out there. You know, there's free mixing in the weddings and all this. You know, the wedding day seems like such a happy, joyous event, but 2-3 months down the line, think how many problems that marriage has. And people always say to you, know, it was always good at the beginning, and I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened because on your wedding day, you're leading up to it, you removed all the barakah.
Exactly,
Do you know what I mean? You displeased Allah while thinking that you're trying to please Allah.
Yeah.
And this is like the same thing with, you know, how many people are missing out on the barakah and actually the amazing marriage they can have with divorcees and widows and things like this. Because, you know, with someone who's fresh to, you know, being married, someone who hasn't been married before, you know, you got a lot of expectations, you know, you got a lot of things that it's already in their mind of, oh, I want to do this, I want to travel here. You know, sisters can't travel wherever they want to without their husbands or without their mahrams. As soon as they get that, they think, yeah, I'm going to this place, I'm going to eat at this place, you know, I'm going to post it all over Instagram, But then when you marry someone who's divorced or widowed, you know, you actually start to appreciate, you know, you see in their eyes how much they appreciate just you being there with them. You know, going to Asda, holding their hand, you know, because Allahu Alam, what it reminds them of, Allahu Alam, what goes through their minds, but does that actually matter? Because they're actually there in the moment with you. They're not thinking, oh, you know, am I dressed all right? Or what if auntie sees me? You know, it doesn't matter like that.
And that's all a man wants really in a marriage, man. You give me just to feel respected and to feel, you know, appreciated. You know what I'm saying? So like you're saying, subhanAllah, sometimes it actually reminds me of, you know, when the Quran says it might be that you dislike something, but it's good for you. And it might be that you like something, but it's actually bad for you. Do you know what I'm saying? So like you're saying, it's about finding that barakah, you know what I'm saying? Where do you find that barakah? And it comes in these type of situations, and it takes a level of maturity, do you get me? And having a level head to be like, yeah, you know what, we're going to do this fi sabilillah or whatever, do you get me? So, yeah, man, I think we have to do like a separate podcast on like, on this, bro, because, yeah, this is deep, like marriage and everything, and, you know what I'm saying, all of that, man. But, yeah, I think we got nearly enough wrap up here, but, bro, I was going to ask, obviously, I always ask 2 questions towards the end. Like, what's one advice you would give to any non-Muslims out there that might be looking into Islam or might not know about Islam, and you know what I'm saying?
You know what? Man, how much time you got? To be honest with you, there's a few things that I could say and I can think off the top of my head, but there's one thing that I advise Muslims and non-Muslims to do not only when it's about thinking about becoming a Muslim or practicing, when it comes to every problem or every single thing you face in life, whether it's a problem, whether you just want to know how to deal with a blessing or something like that, you know, it's something that I was advised from one of my teachers, and it's probably the most comprehensive advice I've ever heard. So what I would say is, my teacher said to me, you know what, when you're facing something, when you're facing good or bad, you know, when you have decisions to make, when you're confused, when you're not sure, you know, anything that's going through your mind that you believe you need more guidance on, that you cannot provide from yourself. He said, read the Quran. Don't just read it and, you know, look, you know, some people say open the Quran and you'll find on that particular page, it'll give you your answer. He said, no, just read anything. Read any part of the Quran, but have your intention to be that you receive guidance from it.
Yeah.
So have an open heart, not just open heart of, oh, you know, is Islam the right thing for me? Is it the wrong thing for me? Have just open heart to give, oh God, give me guidance. Whatever guidance possible there is, whether it's guide me away from Islam, whether it's guide me to Islam, no matter what it is, have your heart open. Yeah. And even if you've got a problem, Muslims as well, when you've got a problem, just open your heart to the guidance. So have your intention, you know, not just open, have your intention that I'm reading this because I'm asking, because I want Allah's guidance. Whether that guidance comes from something you read in the page, whether it's something you feel in your heart, whether it's you open the door and you see something down the road on the street, you know, the guidance will come. So advice-wise, I say to everyone, you know, that's one of the main things, you know, because anyone can, you know, how many people, you know, especially reverts, you know, you sit with a brother, you sit with a person, you tell them so much about Islam, and, you know, you can go on and on and on and on, but it doesn't really affect them too much. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then sometimes you say one little thing and that's it, you know, it's like, whoa. Yeah. So I'd say, you know, the person themselves, you know, be open to whatever, you know, like even as Muslims as well, we need to be open to that guidance. Yeah, for real. But I'd say, you know, that there's no one particular advice that will work for everybody, innit? Yeah. Whereas this is the one thing that I say it will. It generally will. Be open,
keep your intentions.
Yeah, have your intentions. Like, even, to be honest, it's crazy because there's been stories of people who are actually gone out to disprove the Quran and have become Muslims. Their intention as well wasn't guidance from the Quran. Their intention was guidance against the Quran. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my advice would be, you know, take things one step at a time. You know, none of us became Muslim because we had one conversation today and then tomorrow we decided. You know, none of us did. You know, it didn't work like that. So, you know, it's just about take your time, actually take your time for the guidance, not take your time, learn, because I became Muslim knowing nothing. Yeah. Literally nothing. Like, as I said, I struggled 10 minutes to do my Shahada. And even then, the only thing I could tell you that I knew before I was a Muslim is that in the Quran it says that the earth's got an iron core. That's it. That's all I knew. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know what the 5 pillars were. I didn't know nothing at all. I didn't even know what Assalamu alaikum means. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I've been saying it for 3 months, but I didn't even, I was saying it wrong as well. Yeah. What I was actually saying, Assalamu alaikum, or something like that, means may death be upon you. Do you know what I mean? So I was saying that to brothers for like 3 months. So, you know what I mean? It's like I said, like, that was me even becoming Muslim was a journey from, I'd say, from about 6 years old up until 13 years old. Yeah. That was my journey, period. And even then, being a Muslim as well is part of the journey. So, you know, don't expect anything, you know, to happen overnight. Yeah. You know, be open to the guidance, and it will come when it's time.
But yeah, I mean, because my last question was going to be like, what advice would you have for Muslims? But you kind of wrap both of them in the same thing, man. But nah, Jazakallah, my bro. Any final words you want to say to the people before we wrap this up?
Man, I feel like I got dry mouth be talking so much, man. I feel like they're getting bored. But to be honest with you, all I can say is that everyone's journey is going to be different. You know, there's no one particular advice that a person can give you. There's no person that can tell you that your struggles are easier than someone else's or harder than someone else's. You know, Allah tests each and every one of us by our own means. The only thing I can say, and only maybe a bit of advice or anything I can give you, is that, you know, patience is a virtue, and that's beyond, like, you won't understand how much patience is a virtue until you've got to the end of your journey. That's when you'll realize why you had so much patience. And at the same time, I say, go through your journey. Don't be afraid to go through your journey. You know, the hardship that you're facing, don't be afraid to tackle it. Don't be afraid to go on. Don't be afraid to talk to people. You know, there's so many people that experience things in their childhood that they don't talk about for many years, or, you know, that things don't be afraid to go tackle it. You know, when it comes to things like marriage, don't be afraid to approach a sister's father. You know, you get rejected, you probably will, you know, don't be afraid. Like, that's the only thing. The best advice I can give any single Muslim is fear Allah before anyone else. Fear Allah, and I'm telling you, your journey will open. Your pathway will go from here to here. Do you know what I mean? When you only fear Allah, you decide, you speak differently, you act differently, you talk, you know, you dress differently, you know, the way you carry yourself. You know, you fearing Allah isn't about becoming an arrogant person and thinking, you know, I don't care, I'll walk down an alleyway and I'll do whatever I want. You know, it's not about that. It's about, when you fear Allah, you learn manners. You know, you learn how to deal with people. You learn how to deal with different types of people. You know, you learn how to speak according to, you know, the person that you're talking to. And, you know, when you fear Allah, you naturally love the Prophet ﷺ. When you learn about the Prophet ﷺ, you know, you naturally want to go carry on. The Sahaba, radiallahu anha, radiallahu anhu, you know, the only best advice I can give is don't be afraid to go through your journey, push through it. You know, if you're going through hardship and whatever, seek what you can, seek guidance, pray istikhara, seek guidance from Allah, because it's very easy to call someone and, you know, complain and cry and think, oh, I feel better, but then 2 weeks later you're not fine. You know, go through that journey, tackle that pain, you know, feel the pain. There's a famous quote, like, this is not even a Muslim, a guy called Eric Thomas, he's a motivational speaker, and he said, why are you scared of going through pain? Because at the end of pain is a reward, at the end of pain is success. So don't be stuck in that black hole. Don't be scared. Fear Allah. I thought you was gonna
say no pain, no gain, bro.
Same thing. But it's true, honestly. Everyone's journey is different, so go through it. Don't be afraid of your journey. One day, you never know, like you be talking to someone and you be telling them about your journey, and little do you know, you just changed that person's life and they won't say anything to you.
Exactly. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, man. You get me? Sharing people's stories. Inshallah, if it affects even just one person out there, do you get me? You've done a good thing, man. You've done a good thing. But Jazakallah once again for coming through, my bro. Really appreciate it, bro. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.